And first of all, thank you for patiently, making your way into the room. And let me introduce you first, a very important gentleman, a friend, and but above all, is Jay Rosen. He's the head of investment and finance for the Red Sea Development Company. And I'm sure we all want to hear from him all the good things they are doing. So let me start with a very simple question, but I think what everybody is waiting for is give us a bit of an update on the project, the progress, but above all, the impact that this is going to make to the overall kingdom.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the introduction. We've been very busy, at the Red Sea, been master planning and designing for, the better part of 9-12 months. Pleased to say that in the early part of November, recently received approval from our board of directors, from His Royal Highness, approval on our master plan, as well as our initial phase 1 program. We've subsequently presented the project to His Majesty the King, who's blessed it. We're very fortunate to receive those approvals. Big milestone for us, and now we're quickly moving forward to the execution part of the project. We've already started to award some work up at the site to establish a base camp, construction village, management village, with anticipation that this year we'll formally be breaking ground on the project. And with the expectation by the end of 22, we'll be in a position where we'll be delivering and completing the initial phase of that project. The initial phase of the project is anchored around hospitality. We're looking at about 14 hotels encompassing just over 3,000 hotel rooms. We're focused on the luxury market, and we'll have a diverse array of offerings from at the entry-level price point of upper upscale to luxury and some very special hyper-luxury experiences.
You mentioned a nice key word, which is luxury. And I want to ask you a twofold question. How are you positioning the water development, and considering the range of giga developments, as you keep referring to the giga developments, in these huge, destinations, why is the Red Sea development different than the others?
Yeah, so, obviously, we were born out of Vision 2030, which I'm sure many of you in this room, are very familiar with. So, it's the strategic blueprint and plan to transform the Saudi economy. Tourism plays a big part of that. Globally, GDP makes about 10% for tourism. Here in Saudi, it's about 3.5%. And that 3.5% is all centered and catered around religious tourism to Mecca, Medina. So apart from being a luxury, sustainable destination, our vision is to put Saudi on the international tourism map. So that's kind of a fundamental principle. As far as being kind of focused on the luxury segment, that segment, not only is it growing faster than all the other segments within tourism, it's attractive because they tend to travel more, they spend more, they have a high propensity. But that segment of the market is going through an evolution and shifting. So no longer is service a differentiator. It's become an expectation. So guests today, what are they looking for primarily? They're looking for experiences. And that's where I think as the Red Sea Project, we're really looking to differentiate ourselves as a destination and as a project. So many times when you if you want a sun, sand, and beach experience, there's lots of destinations to go to. You can go to the Caribbean, you go to the Indian Ocean, go to French Polynesia. If you want adventure, you can go to the mountains, you can go to the rainforest, you can go to the desert. If you want culture, lots of destinations, culture abound. But what's special about, I think, our project, within a very small footprint, relatively speaking, I say that because we have a 28,000 square kilometer site, but within a single destination, we can check and tick all of those boxes. So the jewel of the project is the lagoon. We have an archipelago of over 90 islands, pristine, untouched, and obviously wonderful beaches, but some of the most spectacular coral reef and water in the world. But in addition to that, we have 200 kilometers of dramatic coastlines. We have a dormant volcano. We have sand dunes. And we're very close to some of the UNESCO historical heritage sites, made in Sala. So again, from my perspective, if we're looking at our destination relative to other destinations in the region, other destinations in the world, I think that's what's unique and special is just within kind of the natural environment and ecosystem, we can kind of check all those boxes. And then through development, we'll be able to enhance that and complement that through programming, planning, and activities. So at the end of the day, when you look at the market that we're focused on and trying to set ourselves and position ourselves relative to the rest of the international destinations, to me, I think that's what's really special, about our project.
I am sure that you recognize and acknowledge that for people that don't really know the country and don't really know the vision 2030 and don't really know the idea and all the experiences you just described, there is some skepticism about the ability of such a mega giga project to attract investments. So I would like you to expand on that about what has been the response from the investment community, but above all, considering 28,000 square kilometers, how have you approached the invest in order to make it attractive?
Sure, I would have put myself in that bucket a year ago, not knowing much about the region and not knowing much about Vision 2030. The response from the investment community has been overwhelming, and which is great for a project like ours, but I think that it's great for the broader country itself. I think it says a lot about about Vision 2030 itself and all the activities that are taking place here. As far as how we're positioning ourselves, we're building a full-service, vertically integrated real estate development company. So we are looking to develop and take on the project in its entirety. We're not looking to sell parcels of land off to other developers to come in to develop. We're very mindful of our vision and want to make sure we can execute upon it. The other element of it that I haven't really mentioned or shared much about is sustainability. So we want to be good global citizens and stewards of the environment and leave it in a better place than when we first came to it. So because of all those reasons, we really want to retain control and make sure we can execute on our vision. So I think that being said, as I said, the response from both the domestic market, the regional, even the international markets has been overwhelming. We are exploring and looking at joint venture partnerships. So for the commercial components of the project, hospitality, residential, entertainment, retail, we would explore and look at joint venture partnerships. And then separately for all the infrastructure, we're looking at building our own airport to service the destination. We have to build a power generation, water treatment, and waste, and all the other civic infrastructure to support a destination. At the end of the day, we'll have 40,000 plus employees once it's fully built out to service them and all their dependents. So you have to have education and healthcare and all the other services. I think we're open to other forms of partnerships, whether that's through PPP, public-private partnerships, or design, build, and operate transfer frameworks. So looking to leverage obviously development, operational, and technical expertise from those third parties, as well as third-party capital.
It sounds like you guys are showing the real muscle, taking on everybody.
Yeah.
But it's refreshing because I've been doing business in Saudi for 9 years, and the typical scenario is land division, selling it, and thank you very much. You're actually guys taking control of the vision, as you're saying, and making sure that what we promise we deliver.
Yeah, I think the other element I think that's resonating well to the investment community is, one of the things that we've been afforded is designation as a special economic zone. So we get to establish our own regulatory and legal framework that will afford us two things. One, to create an environment to be successful in attracting international tourists, right? But secondly, to the investment side, it allows us to create an environment to make it attractive for investors, for lenders, for hotel partners, and other businesses that would want to do business at the destination.
One final question on a one-to-one before we bring in our friends Abdullah, and which I'm sure there are plenty of operators in this room. Considering all the experiences and all the kind of the vision for the project, and part of this is hospitality, as you mentioned, and our dear hotel operators. How have you approached the brand, considering you have so many unique experiences in them? What has been your approach to the brand?
Yeah, so just highlighting some of the unique experiences. So we have mono-island resorts in the outer part of the lagoon that'll promote privacy and exclusivity. We have islands that will be developing as centralized hubs, which will have a little higher concentration of development, promote some more activities and amenities. And then we've got some very special inland developments that'll highlight the special terrain and the environment. But we do have this diverse array of offerings and activities. And from my perspective, we are going out to the market, and we are speaking to hotel partners. And we want to, obviously the brands bring a lot. They bring distribution, they bring reservation systems, sales forces, IT, affinity and reward programs. So the fun part for us is it's a little bit of a puzzle for us to leverage all the value that brands bring. But from our vantage point as a developer, what we have been very thoughtful about is how to position each of the different resort offerings so they don't cannibalize one another and don't compete with one another and go head to head. At the end of the day, we want them to leverage all the value they bring for the success of the destination. But that's how we're looking at bringing in the hotel partners.
Leading on to this, I wanted to ask you a question. You have such a unique experiences, and I would like to give you a reflection on that. Pose you a dilemma. Are there out there such unique hotel brands that can match the uniqueness of what you're doing? Or are you guys thinking differently and maybe creating something that don't exist?
It's a good question. Going back to at least the initial question to tie it in with the brand. So from my perspective, we would love to leverage as many, have as much diversification from the brands as possible, right? And that's a great way for us to further differentiate all the different offerings. I think at the end of the day, the focus of ours will be to strategically partner with brands where it makes sense. It could be possible that there are some very special bespoke offerings on a very small limited basis where a brand wouldn't make sense because what we're doing doesn't lend itself towards brand standards and operational procedures, and what we're developing could be so special, unique. But otherwise, I think by and large, our offering will be branded, and that's the approach we're pursuing.
Excellent. So, building upon all the interesting facts and visions that Jay have just shared with all of us, I want to bring on board Abdullah Dule, which is the investment advisor and to private funds, let's call it, and so to give us a wider perspective, not just on the Red Sea, but above all, the impact that the Giga project, or a destination, let's call it, because it's not just a project, 28,000 square kilometers is a destination in itself, can we call it that? Mm-hmm. Has on the overall kingdom. Abdullah, I know you for a very long time. We used to be colleagues once, so yeah. I would like to ask you a question. Is beyond this Giga project, is still an appetite for hospitality, development, and investment? And what is the sentiment in the market? Not necessarily relating to the Giga project, but in general in the kingdom. What's your views?
Okay, since you brought out that how back we go together, like in a sense we were in college as advisors. Let me say, I would remember the first time I came to Saudi, which was like in 2004, 2005, and all what did I know about Saudi is the kingdom and Al Faisaliya, and that's it. And that's what the destination in Riyadh, to be honest. Looking today, to be honest, and looking over what Saudi actually has and hasn't been exposed until the recent 2 years, to be honest, with all these giga projects, with Al-Ula and all those history destinations that that can go to the public and actually create that tourist destination, I think the opportunity are big and huge for people to come and explore these destinations. Not even talking about the Red Sea, which is like I'm sure like you both like covered a lot in the last 15 minutes. Look over like Jeddah and the opportunity are there. Like Jeddah has a very good beach. Like we look over a lot of opportunity there. Like I think like there is a lot coming in, and even like a lot to compete with the existing supply. I think people are a little bit not satisfied with the kind of resort or even hospitality that's there, and they're looking now for more with that sort of expectation that comes from the 2030 plan, the expectation from all those infrastructure spending that are being considered, more than 70 billion, that's a big number, which we haven't seen before. The expansion of the airport, the railway, even like that connection between Medina and Mecca, and even like allow people to spend some time in Jeddah. The new vision for the visa itself, which was restricted before to only like Umrah and visiting Medina. I think there's consideration about making it like a little bit more open for people to spend more time in Jeddah, more time in other tourist destinations. And I think like, and I actually a big believer that the opportunity is there. Look over Dubai, for instance, like when Dubai started, like when we were there, like they started to create their destination, a destination that has perfected and made people to come. And I think Saudi, because they have the history again, they have a lot of places that no one knows about it. I think people will be attracted, like not even from the domestic, but even the international, so they can spend more time with the Red Sea, with the other development that's being considered, and it will be phenomenal to see that sort of impact.
Yeah, the other thing I just add, so we've done a lot of research for our project, and I think what it's interesting that I think related to the question is, from my perspective as an investor, not agnostic to the Red Sea, but looking at investment opportunities here in the kingdom, I've seen figures anywhere between 15 and 25 billion US of outbound tourism spend by the domestic market. So now with Vision 2030, and whether it's through projects sponsored by PIF or the private sector, but to create these opportunities with hospitality, and whether it's tourism related or otherwise, there's a tremendous opportunity to capture some of that demand that would otherwise go to these other markets, whether it be Dubai in the region, Oman, and other parts of the GCC. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity. Like I said, for our project, we're focused on the international market as well as the domestic and regional market. So a project where both will coexist. But for the other projects that'll be either more domestic or regionally based, I think there's a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, I would say that this cannot be compared to Dubai, because you guys are building something that is next generation, as we call it. And on that note, I wanted to ask you something, Abdullah, and then we come into Jay. Take us to the next 10 years. We know 2022, right? Is the
Phase one, yeah.
Phase one. So we will have Red Sea Phase 1. So I'm sure there's going to be a great buzz in the country, what's coming. Already people are feeling the excitement. So where do you see the industry in the next 10 years?
That's a question that I can be addressed like this. Like, it really depends on a number of factors. And I think today through the area discussion we had, we've seen a lot of project in the pipeline, and even the shift in the hospitality and in the tourism industry, within the next 10 years or so. We see a lot of thoughtful thinking about the offering itself. We've seen yesterday, how even provider and operator are looking and wanting to be here and to be relevant and be affordable, either in the affordable or in the luxury itself now. As Jay said, people can shift from being Dubai, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco destination and be Saudi destination, and depending on how the tourism industry will evolve, and we think the opportunity is there from that as a vision. Number two, and which is the important one, is how flexible that visa issuing would be, which we think it's now we see a lot of interest, like, being very lean about issuing visa. So for me, like, there is a lot of investment and risk consideration. We are now, like, looking over billion of investment in Jeddah and Riyadh, even in the entertainment, like now Al Qadiyah, that's a big one, like, which we believe, like, will be like a destination by itself for local, for Saudis itself, like, rather than going outside. The Red Sea itself and how the next phases will complement the initial phase, and how that will be well perceived as a destination from either international or local, to be honest.
Well, I'm curious about one aspect of the impact that the destination has in the kingdom. In the past, I've always seen the hospitality industry, there is a kind of challenge in reaching Saudatization level. How do you think is going to be the reaction from an employment point of view, that this destination can create? And would you foresee more Saudi local wanted to be part of this, this destination from an employment point of view? What's the response you guys?
What else? I think part of one of the fundamentals of Vision 2030, right, is to create opportunities in general for the economy here, right? including employment. So. For us, we recognize, and I've got direct experience, firsthand from my past experience, but, setting aside, getting a project designed, getting it financed, and getting it developed, I think the greatest challenge, and candidly speaking, where you create the most value, is on the execution and the service delivery side of it. So for us, especially because we're focused on the luxury segment and the luxury market, we're highly focused on having a labor force and that have the skill sets to deliver and execute the service delivery to meet the expectations of those guests. So we've already started to work and explore partnerships with universities domestically, looking at partnerships with universities outside to start to lay that groundwork and the foundation to provide the opportunities for Saudis to have the right skill sets for projects like ours and the other opportunities that be available from some of the other projects.
Considering the wealth of information and experiences that we're hearing for the past 20 minutes, is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question to Jay? It's a great opportunity to ask a question about this project. I don't know whether there's any questions or it's part of the interest.
I have a question.
Yeah, it's coming with the mic. 1 second.
Yes, hi, my name is Osam. I'm a founder and owner of a company of vertical garden called Waterwells. I have just a question concerning two cities. You have the city of Al-Waj and Umluj. For me, it's not clear. Are both of those cities included in the project, in the periphery of the project? Are you going to develop hotels also on it, or everything will be, on the seashore?
Sure. Yeah. No. Thank you for the question. So we're the boundaries of our site are to the north of us is Al-Waj, to the south of us is Umluj. Alula is to the east of us. Those cities are not included in our boundaries. And as I said before, as much as we are really focused on the diversity of our experiences, the concentration of development is principally focused on the islands themselves. So the lagoon itself is really the focus and the concentration of all the development activity, most of the development activity.
And what about the airport? When you say that you will develop an airport, will it be on the city of Waj or Umluj, or it will be separate?
We are still working through and finalizing our aviation strategy, but we have a site designated and picked out within our footprint that's strategically located within the site to get anywhere within a 45 minutes time.
Okay.
It's proximate to the lagoon and to the to our site, not near Al-Waj or Umluj.
Very clear. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, Mohammed Rashdan from Expert Math Management Consulting Company. My question is how the SMEs, the small medium enterprise, will come inside the Red Sea project, big destination, how the small investors from the local market will contribute to this new destination. Thank you.
Yeah, listen, obviously, we can't say today what, I guess I'll first start by answering that, but we can't say today what the special economic zone will look like, in that we're still going through and establishing what that regulatory framework looks like. But there's going to be opportunities abound for all types of businesses to get involved. As I said, we've got the commercial components of the project, so yes, hospitality is the anchor, but we've got residential, retail and entertainment, marinas and yacht clubs, golf and wellness, and every type of amenity and activity you could think of. On kind of the infrastructure side, as I said, we have to build all the infrastructure. So all the core utilities, power, water, and waste, all the civic infrastructure for healthcare and education, labor camps, accommodations, lots of opportunities, both on the construction side as well as on the operational side once we're up and running.
Sorry, under which umbrella? Under the Saudi Commission for Tourism and Heritage, or under your umbrella as consortium, or which umbrella, government body?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure
The legislation and the licensing and the PPP projects, under which umbrella will be typed from? You're the organizer for these SMEs?
Yeah, we will be running our own PPP process.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, there is one more question, Jonathan. Can we take it, or?
I think we got to move on.
Yeah. I'm really sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time, but as President Obama would have said, these guys are fiercely devoted to deliver the vision. So please join me in thanking them and thanking them. And I would like to introduce Richard Thompson now, that is going to lead the next section. So.